What am I going to do as a project for life? I saw this tweet from Jooda a bit ago, a couple of days ago, yes, that says, a piece of advice I keep giving out as a counter to the now overly popular fuck around, find out, don't think, just do small things, is the idea of picking a project to work on over a period of multiple years. You do not answer the what do I do with my life problem by avoiding it. Original idea credit goes to Visa and JM Duke for bringing it up often and in ways that highlight different reasons why this is important. You do not need to be right about what the project is. It shouldn't be your whole life or some kind of risky bet. Just decide on something that you will return to often. Something that you will return to often is kind of the thing that was going in my mind. Maybe I worded the video as in whole life when he said explicitly it shouldn't be your whole life. But I don't know. I like to think as something that you will return to often in this way of like something that you can commit to for long term, right? Indefinitely, you could say. And then I also saw this Richard Linklater interview. This is the New York Times link, but since it's private or fucking whatever, it's called the interview. Richard Linklater sees the killer inside us all. I will link it in the description. This interview. In this interview, basically, Richard Linklater, in case you don't know him, is a movie director. This is because of his latest movie, Hitman, which is not exactly the movie they want to talk about, but in this interview, they mention something like, yes, he asks him about this adaptation that he's currently making about a musical called Merrily We Roll Along, and the musical takes place over 20 years, and he's filming the adaptation over 20 years, right? And Richard Linklater is no stranger to this kind of thing. The movies that I love his movies that I love the most are the Before trilogy, which is a trilogy that started being recorded in 1995 with the first movie. The second movie of the trilogy was recorded in 2004, so 9 years later, and the third movie was released in 2013, so filmed like a year before, more or less. I don't know the exact timing, but more or less like that, right? So they are movies separated 9 years between each other, representing this kind of relationship, this romantic relationship, how not really evolves, but yeah, you just watch the movies, but they are projects that were made with this kind of big time frames in mind, right? These big long-term time commitments, which I respect a lot. This is another project he's involved in with this kind of time commitment, right? 20 years. And the one that he mentions here, right? For example, he mentions Boyhood, which is another movie like that, right? They ask him, you're probably going to die, right? Basically. So tell me, why that project? You want to hear something that's intelligently insane, and I admit it? Yes. You set capstone to a career at age 80. I never thought like that, because I see myself making a film when I'm like 94. I really do. I'll go along, try to stay in shape, try to be healthy, hope to get lucky. But we're telling a story that takes place over 20 years, and it's really important for this story to work that you feel those years go by. That was Boyhood. Boyhood is another movie like that. It's a movie about the childhood of some kid, and also his dad and his divorced parents and all this, right? Also a great movie. I've watched it as well. That was Boyhood. You had to feel life going by. And this movie is about long-term friendship and the way life treats people and how that shifts around over 20 years. That is the 20 years movie. Boyhood was, I think, less years. It started recording it in 2005 or something, and ended the recording in 2013 or so, I think. So also 9 years. Everybody involved is clearly doing it because they care. So we just have to assume they'll keep caring, and they'll care 10 years, 15, 16, 17 years. You judge people on that. Before I cast someone, I go, you're a lifer. Interesting, right? He has this eye for this. I did that on Boyhood. I asked Patricia Arquette, what are you going to be doing 12 years from now? So actually 12 years. I was wrong. She's like, I'm going to probably be looking for a part to play. I said, yeah, and I'm going to be trying to make a film. So let's just start now, and we'll be who we are now and in the future. That's all it was. It's not some huge leap of faith, right? So I thought this was very interesting to read, right? The thing that I had noted here, right, is like a multi-year project, right? He has, multi-year project, I have mentioned this, but it feels more real, right? This is something that I mentioned before, that because it's a team effort, right? It feels more real because it's a team effort, right? So he is able to see the people who are lifers and who will commit to this project for so many years, and he is able to kind of coordinate this endeavor, which feels more real, for example, that what I could do as a project for life that I could come back to, right? If I come back to something often, to me, it feels less real, right? There are some people who have a very strong sense of themselves or whatever, right? So they can feel like this is real and they are committed to this, blah, 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 right? But I don't know. I feel less like that because I feel like I'm doing something alone and drifting alone somewhere and not really being part of anything. So it feels like more pointless. I will say this at the end, but yeah. Then another thing I have here is Doze and Crispy, which is a channel, which is this channel. I have watched basically half the channel already, and this girl is a girl from my town. I know her from like middle school, even preschool maybe. I'm not sure, but yeah, I know her since very little, and yeah, we obviously drifted apart. I don't know when, probably like high school, something like that. We weren't like hyper close either in middle school or whatever, but in middle school, if you are someone who has been like from middle school to like advanced high school and have been in the same class for all those years, right? It's like you basically, yeah, they are kind of a big part of your life. I know her birthday, for example. Like I don't know her number, but I know her birthday and all some of these things that you remember from people that you spend a lot of time with and all this, right? And now I watched their YouTube channel, and I think that the fact that I know her is relevant to this because, yeah, I think this is kind of the counterpoint to a long-term project, right? This is not, for example, well, I don't want to speak on their behalf, right? And they are also two people in this two people project, so it's different. But for example, I know her, right? So I know what she's been through, more or less, not in a close way, but more or less in a same town, spending a lot of time together at the beginning and hearing hearsay and all that kind of things, right? So I know that she's a doctor. They also say this in the channel, right? So it's not some kind of secret. But I know, for example, that she went to university. She didn't get into the right thing at the beginning, but she stood on that path, and then she took like the necessary steps to get actually admitted to like the medical school that she wanted or something like that. And then she graduated from medical school, and now she's passing like the medical bar that we have here in Spain. And I think she actually passed it, not sure in the videos, but I think I follow her on Instagram, right? So I think she has actually passed the medical exam and all that shit, right? Which is fucking dope, right? So this is what I wanted to get at with this kind of long-term commitment, right? So I can see, because I know her life, right, that she's long-term committed to being this fucking doctor, right? To being a doctor. So it's to the making videos about your camper van and about your camper van travels and all of this is kind of a side thing in her life project, I could say, right? I could see if her plan was to retire one day or to like dedicate herself full-time to this. I could believe it, but I don't think that is kind of the main thing that I was thinking about. I was thinking that the main thing, like the main probability outcome or whatever, is that this is kind of her side thing. I'm not sure if it's his side thing. Maybe it is his main thing. He has a bigger channel. This channel is small, relatively, 3,000 subscribers, which to me is a lot. But yeah, but he has a bigger channel. He has like a channel with 50,000 subscribers apparently or whatever about photography and all this. So maybe that is his main thing. But I could see, for example, that for him, this could be the main thing. But for her, I don't see that. So I don't see that as a main possibility, I mean, right? Like that would not be the main thing that I would think about. So I was kind of using, I had this video as a counterpoint, right? As this kind of, not video, this channel as a counterpoint to linklater, right? Or to something that you are going to keep coming back to, right? I see that not as a project with like a shelf life, a determined shelf life or anything like that, right? But I see it as something that is kind of born inherently as a side thing, and that because of their circumstances, more specifically like her circumstances, is more a side thing, right? And as my project for life, I am trying to find a main thing. So I support that these things get made, and they are actually, and like this is actually, they are really good videos, and you can tell that the guy has experience with photography and all this. it's like in the subtle details, right? You can tell that the audio is good, the shots are like they have care, that kind of thing, right? You can tell that he puts a lot of effort in these videos, and that it's, even if it's a side thing or whatever, like I don't mean it as a demeaning thing, right? I mean it in as a, like, you can work very hard at a side hustle, but it is still a side hustle. I mean it in that kind of way, right? So when I see this video, it's not that I'm not inspired, right? I am obviously, I also object level like the project, right? I like the idea of turning an ambulance into a camper van, and I have watched other videos about it, right? So I also like this, and it's not that I'm not inspired to make a camper van, it's simply that I don't want to make a camper van out of an ambulance because, yeah, I don't know. I don't see that as something that I would want to do necessarily a lot, right? It sounds like a nice idea, but it's not something that I want to do. But I don't mean it that I'm not inspired by them in that sense because they are not inspiring or whatever, right? I mean it in the sense that it is not the path that I'm trying to pursue, right? I'm trying to pursue something that is the main thing, right? I am trying to find a main thing, like Richard Linklater's movies. He has become absorbed by his movies. Mr. Beast, also another person, right? He has become absorbed by the YouTube videos. The YouTube videos are the absolute main thing. And that is kind of something that is kind of the thing that I aspire to, right? That is the thing that I want to find. And I think in my case, like the thing is that between these two things, right? Between these two things, between the Linklater or Mr. Beast model and the doze crispy model, right? This one I have called kind of side hustle, but it's actually more stable economically, right? You could say, right? She has a medical job or whatever, so she gets money from somewhere that is not dependent on the channel, so she can always keep coming back to it. She's sustained by it. Meanwhile, if Mr. Beast's YouTube enterprise crashes, Mr. Beast goes to the shitter, right? Or if Linklater's movies had failed in the beginning, he could not have kept directing or something like that. Like, it's like the balance is more unstable when you are a director or when you are this kind of YouTuber full time, right? So, yeah, that is kind of a balance that I thought it was interesting, right? It's interesting to see that. And even though I want to find the main thing, I may need to have a side hustle that is the actual main thing, right? So if I get a job, people will assume that is my main thing, even though it is not the thing that I commit to keep coming back to, right? That is the thing. That I mentally know that I'm not going to keep coming back to that job. Unlike, for example, Chris, who would come back to the medicine job, I assume, right? She would like to come back to that medicine job because that is kind of her calling or like her vocation, that kind of stuff, right? Meanwhile, to me, I would like to keep coming back to the videos, right? I have a commitment to video, right? That is my conclusion here. I do have a commitment to it, so I do want to keep coming back to video for some reason. And I would see the jobs if I get a job. Well, I will have to get a job, right? So when I get a job, I will see that as a way to keep making videos, right? As a way to keep being in the game of making videos for a long time. While I find a frame that I can super like. For example, Linklater's movies, he super likes movies. In this interview that I was reading here, he mentions that he has watched more than 600 movies a year or something, right? When he was a kid. He was obsessed with that shit. Same with Mr. Beast that I mentioned in this video and also in another video. He was obsessed with that shit. He has watched a fuck ton of hours of YouTube. And same with me. I have watched a fuck ton of hours of YouTube as well. Basically, as if YouTube was my full-time job. As if watching YouTube was my full-time job. But even still, I have not found a frame of the kind of thing that I want to make that I super like. I make my videos like this, but I don't super like my videos, right? I don't think, and not just me, but the audience doesn't super like my videos, right? So, yeah. Those are kind of my conclusions of this. I think it's interesting. I have a commitment to video and I want to make that the main thing, right? So unlike unlike Doze and Crispy, for example, well, I'm going to leave Doze out of it. Unlike Crispy, for example, which is the person that I kind of know more in that channel, I am more committed to video than that, right? than what I could expect from what I know, right? But unlike Linklater, for example, I have not found a frame that I like his movies, which he has able to be to put himself into, right? He has able to make this movie career successful because he has put all of him in that. I have not been able to do that. I have not been able to put all of me on video for some reason, and I have not found a way to make videos that I fully like or something like that. So yeah, that is kind of the balance that I'm thinking about as a project for life, right? I have found a commitment to video, but I have not found a specific format that I like a lot. So I have to think of an alternative way, that kind of thing. I don't know. But the alternative way has to be thought of as an alternative way that keeps me returning to video. I don't know. I think that's clear. I will leave a video here of maybe me talking about things that I want. A playlist about me talking about things that I want. And yeah,